everyone, and welcome to another video on Tutorials Point with Ms.Richa. Today, under the Teaching Skills for Educators module, we will talk about adult learning principles. Well friends, adults learn in a different fashion and children learn in a completely different fashion. So there is going to be a lot of comparison between how adults learn and children learn. Today in this particular module, we will focus on how adults learn in a better manner. Let's get started. Well, on the agenda today, we will talk about the core issues with regards to adult learning, project and problem-centered learning, promoting their positive self-esteem, integrate new ideas with the existing knowledge, capitalize on their experience, and allow choice and self-direction. Well, adults' learning situations differ from that of a child, and let's see how do adults learn. Adults are life-centered in their orientation to learning. They want to learn which will help them to perform better at their workplace. What they are really looking for is real life scenarios and situations. Rather than more on theoretical, what they are really convinced upon is how will the learnings help them into their day-to-day situations at workplace. Well, the adult learners have a particular typical way of learning. They need to know. So as children will accept anything what you tell them as a teacher, but an adult will learn in a different fashion. They need to know why they are being taught a particular thing. The learner's self-concept. The learner who is an adult already has in his own mind a self-concept about that particular thing which is being taught by a teacher. Readiness to learn. A lot of times the learner who is an adult may or may not be ready to learn, and that can influence his taking of that particular module which is being taught. Orientation to learning. He really needs to be oriented into the learning area and the learning sphere altogether. And motivation. For a learner, it is very important, and if he is an adult learner, he needs to be really motivated to learn. As children are already self-motivated, however, adults need to really look for motivation in order to get that particular topic into their mind. So motivation is very important. All of these things are typical adult learning situations. Well friends, we will now talk about project-based as well as problem-centered learning. There is a bit of a difference between these two learning patterns. Well, a project-based learning has often a multiple subject kind of a thing, whereas a problem-based learning has more of a single subject that is given to the learner to talk about. A project-based learning may be lengthy, it may go on to weeks and months as well. However, for a problem-based learning, they are tending to be a little shorter in their time frame. A project-based learning generally follows a very general and variously named steps. However, a problem-based learning follows specifically traditionally prescribed steps. It's like how you traditionally solve a problem. Includes the creation of a product or a performance, whereas for a problem-based learning, the product may simply be a proposed solution which is expressed in writing or in an oral presentation. Well, for a project-based learning, it often involves a real-world, fully automatic tasks as well as settings. However, a problem-based learning has more often use of case studies and fictitious scenarios. So they are really more bothered about the case studies and trying to understand from a real-based scenario. Now, as a teacher or as a facilitator, it is very essential as well as imperative to promote positive self-esteem for the adult learners. For children, you might just say something to them which might affect their self-esteem. In the same way, an adult really needs to be promoted in terms of a positive self-esteem. So you need to value each individual as an individual who has unique strengths and abilities. Never put down any particular learner if he's an adult. Reject the individual's behavior but never reject the individual. If a learner who is an adult is behaving in a typical fashion, it makes sure that a teacher should not reject the behavior, or rather it should Try to motivate the person by not targeting the individual, but try him to change the behavior that he is showing. Never compare one individual to another. Adults don't like to be compared, and hence a teacher should really make use of this. When discussing an issue or a problem, avoid bringing up past difficulties. Try to focus on the present moment only. Communicate your confidence in the individual and about their future. It is very important that you yourself talk in a lot of confidence way with regards to the individual whom you are training or teaching. Help the individual develop their own decision making and problem solving skills. Do not solve the problems for the learner who is an adult. Give them the problem and ask them to solve it according to their own skills. Do not make decisions for them. Let them make their own decisions. Look for opportunities to offer him choices to allow him to practice decision-making skills. Well, these are all the ways in which you can actually promote a positive self-esteem for an adult learner. Let's try and talk about integrating new ideas with the existing knowledge. Well, for an adult learner, it is important that you do not outdate his previous experiences and knowledge. Try to integrate it along with the modern way of teaching. So challenge the assumptions. It's very important that you are talking, whenever you're talking to an adult learner, you try to challenge the assumptions that he already has before, so that he tries to question it himself. Reword the problem. Try to make, try to look at the problem in a different scenario or a different way. Think in reverse. Try to make them go back into the reverse order and try to let them think in their own way. Express yourself through different ways and different media. So that is important in order to integrate the new with the old or new with the existing knowledge. Well, it's very essential as a teacher when you are dealing with adult learners to capitalize on their experience. As we mentioned before, adults learn best in real life scenarios. They are not interested in theory. What they are interested in is hands-on activity or hands-on, getting into the particular task and doing it well. So experience capitalization and interactive process through which an experience, it could be a success or a failure, is identified, valued and documented in various ways. So when you are doing any kind of a discussion with an adult, try and make them understand the entire process by giving it to them, documenting it for them, and also making sure that you do a kind of a case study so that they understand things in a better manner. Work of documenting and capitalizing of good practices. An organization can respond more quickly and effectively to different types of criticism and crisis and changes that may arise. So hence it's important that when you are working or teaching an adult learner, try and make it very realistic for him by making sure that you are looking at capitalizing on the good practices and the things which are really needed as a good case study, so that they can also compare it with themselves. Well, for an adult learner, it's important to allow them the choice and the self-direction. The more you do things for them, they don't like it. Rather, let them have a feeling that they are doing it for themselves and by themselves. So it gives the ability to decide on a mix of supports and services that best work on their needs. Self-direction gives an individual and families greater control over the services they receive, how and by whom they receive it. So it gives them a sense of pride that they are doing that particular thing. You might help them out, but ultimately let them have their own self-direction and choices. Individuals have more control and flexibility to live as independently in their homes and in their communities. So as we mentioned before, do not stand with a stick in your hand when you're teaching an adult learner. Let them make their own choices. Let them chalk out their path for themselves. Well friends, that brings us to the end of this particular module on adult learning principles. I do hope that if you are an adult and you have understood the entire module and how it can really affect as a teacher teaching or as an educator teaching to an adult learner. I hope you have liked this video. Thank you for watching us and have a great day.
Tutorialspoint.com. Simply easy learning.